name is Angelo, and I have the privilege of opening the second day of the Celo Salon here at EthCC Paris. And we're very excited about the programming this day because we're focusing on social impact and local use cases. And this is one of the reasons why I'm at Celo, because the technology really caters to like unlocking how the technology can serve the real world needs, right? So we have a very exciting day today, and I wanted to open the day with an announcement. I'm taking this opportunity to walk you through the Social Impact Collective, we are launching officially starting today, which will double click on how we're focusing on our mission alignment of really creating a financial system that enables prosperity for everyone. Right? So, so there you go. I want to start by just going back to our mission, which is to build the financial system that creates the conditions for prosperity for everyone. And I want to start the morning as well by telling stories of how over the years, we really have challenged ourselves to go on the ground, to meet real-world users, to understand their context, to immerse ourselves, and see how the technology, Web3, blockchain, and cryptocurrency, can really disrupt their lives and change their situations, right? And again, this is one reason why I love being at Celo, among the many reasons, including the people that I work with, as well as like the community of builders that I meet, like the exceptional talent. But I wanted to share the stories of the people that we've met and to whom we have introduced the technology as an inspiration, right? So starting with Janet. So this is in Nairobi, Kenya. Janet is 21 years old. So we went to Kibera, which is the largest informal settlement in Nairobi. And Janet is an unemployed young person in Nairobi, right? And so through our partnership with the UN World Food Program, we were able to gather 200 individuals to introduce them to the digital economy, right? To equip them with jobs. Because Janet also graduated from college, but then the opportunities in Kenya, in Nairobi, are scarce. And so like through a builder, which is part of the Celo ecosystem as well, their name is Corsali. Corsali enabled Janet to work on her mobile phone and do data annotation work and earn maybe like, $5 per task completed, $3. And to us, it might be too small. But to her and her family, it was the difference between eating and not eating. And so we also introduced her, so that's one, access to employment. But we also introduced her to cryptocurrency because data annotation is not new. But then the platforms that they use to receive their compensation tend to be very restrictive, right? So the options in the market right now, not gonna mention, they have to accumulate like, let's say $100 first and wait for a month before they can cash out. And then normally they have to take on a huge fee in terms of like the transaction as well as like absorb the exchange rate. And so at the end of the day, the $3 to $5 she earned for completing a task can be erased or like wiped out. And so by introducing crypto, by introducing Celo, our stablecoin, they get to be compensated real time. And then, thankfully, through the availability of other DeFi products, we got to introduce her that, okay, you don't need to convert your money right away to fiat, but in fact, there are opportunities for you to grow your money, right? Like Good Ghosting, and our friends from Good Ghosting are here. So we introduced them to Good Ghosting as well. And it was fun, because like it was unique. It was not the traditional bank account that, you have to go to a branch and like fall in line for 30 minutes, just like to deposit money, and then the interest will be measly. But I showed Janet here because her story is, normally she wouldn't have access to credit. But because of her track record of earning money from digital work, from data annotation, not only did it unlock new credit products, new savings products for her through Good Ghosting, but through another partner, which is Possessia, she was able to secure a loan, a very small loan again, to start her fruit vending business. And as you could see in her quote, when we were talking to her, she said like, it's my longtime dream, but I don't know where to get the credit, right? And so thinking about the possibilities that DeFi can unlock, right? Like products and services that are out of reach for these type of groups, and then giving them that opportunity not only to gain income for them and to support their family, but also like opportunities that sometimes we take for granted, right? And I love this story because this emphasizes the ability of the Celo community, the alliance, to come together, different incentives, different backgrounds, like the UN World Food Program, as well as like builders, to serve people like Janet, right? And to really change the game for her. The next example I have is Tita Charito, which is from the Philippines, where I came from as well. She's a traditional artisan, and she heads this cooperative of traditional weavers around the lake in northern Philippines, right? And it's a small, it's like they're one of the remaining weavers who practice this specific type of craft, this specific type of weaving fabric. And during the pandemic, again, it came to a grinding halt. Like they have to stop production. Normally, they rely on a lot of like conferences as well as like buyers who help them market their products. And during the pandemic, because of the lockdown, they had to stop, right? To an extent, like a lot of the members of the cooperative considered selling their looms, and that's their source of living. And the looms didn't go to a new weaver. In fact, they were considering to sell it to a junk shop because there's like value in like monetizing the steel from the looms as well as like the wood, because they're already on like, you know, a desperate situation. But then thankfully, we knew the community, and after this session, we'll have the opportunity to talk to their community manager. They will dial in to have a conversation with us. We introduced them to Impact Market, which is decentralized, and we know we're proud again to have them in the Celo's ecosystem, but a decentralized poverty alleviation protocol that allowed donors around the world to directly support communities like that of Tita Charito. And so it came at the right time because the regularity of the the unconditional basic income appropriately like saved them so that they didn't have to sell their looms. But that's just one aspect. Again, the story here is the strength of the Celo's community is like connectedness, right? After Impact Market, they did need the funds to kind of like go by their lives, but then they wanted to go back to the thing they love the most, which is weaving. And they saw Valora. Like, oh, I can send money across borders, like for a fraction of the fee. And oh, this connects us to different markets who might be interested in our craft. And so through Valora, which is the digital wallet, we also introduced them to Paychant, which is like a payment processor that allowed them to open an online marketplace so that they could start receiving orders from abroad. And so they were surprised, like, oh, it's hard for us to access international markets because either, you know, we don't have the language, we don't have the capability to do that full blast marketing. But through a platform like Paychant, we can set it up and then people can pay in CUSD and we receive the money directly into our wallets without going through intermediaries that again cut a lot of costs. And so from just being recipients of the UBI, the technology empowered them to go back to their craft and open new opportunities for them to promote what they love the most. Again, it's a lovely story. I was supposed to bring textiles, but it's trapped in the French bureaucracy right now. My fingers are still crossed that it will come at times so that people can see them because I think they're great. The last story that I wanted to highlight is that of Dixon. This is another project that we did in Kenya. We went to the north in a rural area called Nanyuki. And Dixon is a farmer working with an agricultural company called Cinch. Cinch will also join us in the session. Like their community manager will have a conversation with us later. So Dixon is a landowner, but then still considered poor or low income because his land is too small to be scalable for him to have enough yield to kind of like you know, like stand by, like handle his own production. So what Cinch does is they lease the land from Dixon, and then Cinch consolidates all the land so that they could do farming at scale, and then they pay Dixon a certain like monthly income, some sort of like as an employee, so that either he can also work as a farmer, but also like get income from his land that is otherwise just stale there or like not productive. And so through a partnership with Mercy Corps Ventures, we thought about, okay, there is an employer-employee relationship between Dixon and Cinch. And Dixon needs credit, or like among the needs that they have is like this access to finance, right? And conventionally, if you're in the middle of Kenya, like in the fields, again, you have limited financial options. Either you borrow informally from like unreliable sources, or they're faced with like excruciatingly high fees, such as, I don't know, sometimes 100%, like maybe 4% a month for credit. And so what we did was, okay, why don't we leverage on this relationship between Dixon and Cinch and allow him to access credit through Mula Market? And that's what we did. And so through a credit delegation model, and I can share more about that after this talk as well, we were able to provide credit to Dixon using or like leveraging on his income from Cinch. And so from the usual exorbitantly high fees that he gets, he was able to get a credit for, I think, 8% per annum, which is significantly low. And again, to us, like it was a small amount, like I think 10,000 shillings. Maybe that's less than $100, if my math is right. And again, we all know the power of credit. He's a farmer, but then he was able to purchase or start his own little farm of like apple trees for 75 apple trees. And he knows that in 2 or 3 years, this will be bigger for him, right? Like he will have a new source of income. And so this ability to unlock new financial products and services to give access, especially to those that are traditionally underserved or marginalized. And then we bring about like the strength of the community and connecting different talents within the Celo ecosystem and serving people like Dixon. This is what we want to do. And I feel like this is the core of the mission of Celo. And so as we think about, yesterday we started talking about ReFi, it's trending on Twitter. We're seeing the social impact initiative to be one of the pillars that will help us. Like we want to leverage on the Alliance for Prosperity as like this collective that really pursues regenerative economy, right? And we're casting a wide net on like thinking about regenerative finance, not only tackling a healthier climate, but also improving the well-being of individuals and communities. And through the Social Impact Collective, working together with the other initiatives of Celo's ecosystem, like the Creator Collective, the DeFi for the People Collective, and also the Climate Collective and Connect the World, we know that we can kind of like synergize to really progress further. So the other thing that we wanted to kind of like emphasize, and I think this is a good opportunity, especially given the macro conditions right now, is this shift of thinking, which is, I think, long overdue, which is just like, how can we generate more stories like Dixon, Janet, and Charito? Because how do we move away our thinking of like redefining success, not just on like the traditional metrics in blockchain, right? Like total value locked, token price, and market capitalization, to something like proof of impact, right? Think about if builders are oriented towards like, oh, how much liquidity I can bring to my protocol versus like, how many micro entrepreneurs have you supported? How many coder students have you supported again in terms of education? Or like, access to housing loans, traditional artisans being able to continue their craft, and total trees planted. I think the Alliance for Prosperity is a good home for us to collectively shift that thinking and to work together on really like making sure that we pursue our mission, which is like using Web3, blockchain, and cryptocurrency technology to generate impact, right? With this in mind, so like bringing together the community and then focusing on proof of impact, shifting this thinking, I'm glad to announce that, I have examples, right? So impact market, instead of just like the thinking about like how much liquidity or donations are coming, as of this date, they have mobilized, they have extended UBI to 46,000 beneficiaries around the world. Or good ghosting, thinking about what do you call this, the number of savings accounts that have been opened, right? Like stories like Janet, who don't have normally, or even Tita Charito, who don't have a traditional bank account. How many of them finally have like a savings account through this application? Or we were talking a lot about this yesterday as well, the measurable impact on the climate, right? Like the tons of CO2 offsets, as well as like the total carbon negative days while the blockchain operates. So yeah, as I've said, we want to launch officially the Social Impact Collective. And through this collective, we have 3 goals. One is to drive positive change in the world through financial inclusion and economic prosperity. And we know that Web3 can help bring about this goal, right? But the collective in particular, we envision it to bring together the greatest minds working at the intersection of technology, impact, and research. And finally, of course, because we're a network of like builders and like visionaries, enable and support them or the builders on their path to develop for social impact. I wanted to announce that from here, as we move forward, these are the activities that we envision or we imagine. These are the things that we've been doing over the years at Celo, as well as like with the Alliance for Prosperity. And we want to continue doing this, as well as like expand our network and invite other members of the industry, as well as like other organizations to help us and to collaborate with us. So we will continue to do these pilots, these experiments and projects through use case development. We really wanted the technology to respond to a real world need. So we will dedicate resources in continuing these projects. We also wanted to do advisory service. So in my job at Celo, like I meet a lot of foundations, organizations that are not Web 2, not even Web 3, but are very interested, are very crypto forward and like, oh, how can this technology help us? And so for us, it will be already a great value add if we're able to connect builders, if we're able to connect members of the ecosystem to these organizations and find how they could collaborate. At the same time, like this investment network, right? Like looking for capital to continue your development, looking for like resources to accelerate what you've been building. We want to do that activity as well. And then, of course, as I've mentioned, we want to enable builders. We imagine doing more hackathons this Friday. This is a pitch. Our lovely Brandy will lead the pitchathon that's focused on social impact. This will be on Friday, so everyone's invited, and there are prizes. But yeah, this matchmaking mentoring opportunity of like linking the community with development-oriented organizations. Of course, thought leadership. There's a lot of thinking, right? Like, what does impact mean? Because of course, there's always that risk as well of like we might be whitewashing, greenwashing, whatever color washing you want to call it. But how do you really, and I think the conversation yesterday was really good, right? Like how do we not fall into the trap again of just reproducing, the failures of today's system? And I think that applies as well to social impact, right? How do we really create a financial system that responds to real world use stories instead of them just being used for, posterity? purposes. And so I think that thought leadership is important, like developments in the technology as well as like that intersections and nexus. We want to focus on that. And then finally, community building. I'm very glad you're here, but like events like this, right? Like just that fostering that conversation, that discussion, and like that social impact, like on how to use the technology for social impact. Yeah, I'm glad to announce as well that we've been working on this for several weeks, but it was received with so much enthusiasm and support from members of the community. And so like, these are our partner organizations, and I want to mention them one by one. Mercy Corps Ventures, Grameen Foundation, they've been our pilot partners to bring Celo on the ground and to tackle real-world use cases. And then our network of builders, Kotani Pay, our off-ramp in Africa, Impact Market, Resource, Good Ghosting, they're here, Francis and Jacob are here. Umoja, they've done great projects with Celo as well in Africa, in Care Ecuador, with Care Ecuador, and also in Haiti. And then in the sphere of like thought leadership, the Crypto Research and Design Lab will also be part of the initiative, and Social Stack. And so, these organizations, some of them will have programming today, so I invite you to stay and like listen. I think they have great content and workshops to share. Yeah, but this is not limited. This is just the start. My invitation is for everyone to join the Social Impact Collective and tell us. Again, we're envisioning a decentralized community, and let us know how we could collaborate, how we could like work together, especially like in achieving these goals. So, yeah. Thank you. So that's the first session. Maybe we can have a 5-ish minute break, 5 to 10-ish minute break. The next part is we have real world, we have the beneficiaries joining us via Google Meet. They might be texting me in WhatsApp now. They will join they will join us online here, and we'll have a conversation. We do this a lot at Celo, like we do a lot of user research, so like talking to beneficiaries. I hope you'll stay, and we'll resume shortly. Thank you. Oh, yeah, of course. Like questions, comments.
What's the best way to take advantage of the opportunity of the Social Impact Collective?
Yeah, so like one of the activities is, of course, like this Friday, we have like this pitch-a-thon. And then we'll start setting up meetings because we want to convene like the organizations that we've mentioned as well as like new members. One of the activities that we're thinking about is like the Fury of Change, right? Which is also the title of this session, supposedly. How can we rethink the Theory of Change of Celo? We have that published like maybe several years ago. It's, I think, up for review, but we want this to be a community process, right? And then that being some sort of like our manifesto of, okay, moving forward, how do we leverage on this? How do we orient the way we develop, the way we kind of like build our businesses, our organizations? That's one. And then I think the answer to that question is like, tell us. We'd love to help you if it means connecting you to different organizations, connecting you to investors. We have that in the audience as well. And even connecting you to communities, to users, and we have a lot if you want to kind of like really ground your work in social impact. Yeah. Yes, Francis.
All the parties, into this initiative, and if someone wants to contribute and be part of it, what should they do and how can they get involved?
Right. So for the members of the Alliance for Prosperity, it's just like a yes. And the logos, the organizations that I've showed is just like almost like a Telegram chat, like, hi, please join us. For other groups, yeah, there's no like formal restriction. It's very open. Yeah, send us an email, send us like a Telegram note. and then yeah, we can continue. We can start the conversations there, and then find ways that we could collaborate. But no kind of like, oh, you have to be this, you have to be that. I think at its heart, like that orientation towards like social impact, using Web3 for social impact, then we're speaking the same language. Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, so in 5 to 10 minutes, yeah, the title of the next session is like Voices from the Ground, Use Cases in Surprising Places. And they will be excited to meet you all as well. Okay, thank you.